Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Tina Dawson, the owner of True Blue Designs, and it is truly an honor to be before you this evening. Please like and share and let everyone know that we are on the air. We are streaming live on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel at True Blue Designs. I just want to say thank you so much for everybody sticking with us and tuning in. I want to let you know that on our website, there is a contact us button, and we are looking for guests to interview. So if yourself or someone that you know would like to come on the guest to share their journey, to talk about who they are, what they do, and give the inside perspective of what they know, please let them know that we will welcome them on our show. Um, an April 2023 Inc. File article about side hustle statistics noted that 93% of working Americans have a side hustle. 37% started a side business to pursue passion. 41% do it to spend more time doing the things that bring them joy. But what if the side hustle turns into something very profitable that can be scaled into an actual full-time business? The thought of leaving a job to start a business can be incredibly exciting. However, leaving a stable income to launch your own company can be risky and doesn't always lead to success. Tonight's guest decided to take the leap and left corporate America to become a full-time entrepreneur. And he's here to share his journey. Ladies and gentlemen, help me give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, Mr. Quentin Carter. Hey, Quentin.
Hey, Tina, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Long time coming.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell the audience that we almost didn't make the show on time. We got caught up in a
We
conversation
did.
that we are going to
Absolutely.
have to do another show on, right?
A spinoff.
A spin-off, for real. For real.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of great topics. There's a lot of great people doing great things that are not always highlighted in the news or highlighted on social media. So I am so glad that God gave me the idea to create this platform, right? Because it's just for ordinary people to come
Right.
on and talk about who they are, what they do, and give the inside perspective of what they know, because we all know something, right?
Absolutely.
And we've all been through something.
Absolutely.
And our just being able to share our journey could help someone. You just never know who your story can help. So I just want to say thank you so much for always supporting True Blue Designs and supporting me in my endeavors. And just also want to say before we get started, and I've said this before, I am so proud of you.
Thank you. I
I am
appreciate it.
so proud of you, and you are um, really encouraging to me and many others as we follow your journey,
Thank
right?
you.
That you share on social media. So a lot of our viewers might not know you. So I'm gonna start off by letting you introduce yourself to the viewers.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you again, Tina, for having me. As she mentioned, my name is Quentin Carter. I'm now a full-time entrepreneur residing in Birmingham, Alabama, from a small town called Cortland, Alabama, about 1,400 people. Everybody knows everybody. If you tell me you're from there and I don't know you, you're telling me a lie. I know everybody from there, right? A graduate of Alabama A&M University. Love my HBCU. Everybody know I give my all to my school, to my university, to my alma mater, because I feel like that place really helped make and mold me to who I am today. I'm a giver. I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I love people. I love life. So I'm very thankful to be here to share my perspective on my career, taking the leap and things that I've done. I got to do more of this. I've been told, my mentor tells me all the time that I got to share this story and I got to get it out in front of more people. Some people may not know about me is that I have a hard time talking about myself. So there are situations, even simple things as Facebook post. I
Mhm.
have to push myself to make it. People may not believe that, but I do. I have a hard time really putting myself out there because I do like to push people from behind the scenes.
Right.
Because sometimes you hear, regardless of what we say, that we don't care what people think or say.
Mhm.
Words matter.
Yeah.
Words hurt. So when you hear certain things of people saying certain things, it bothers you. So I just kind of sometimes like to stay quiet, but it's time out. It's time out for being quiet. God has been way, way, way too good to me for me to sit down and not share my story.
Right. Well, your mentor is correct because it's therapeutic. It helps you, but it helps those that are quietly watching
Mhm.
to get it, to encourage them to make it one more day, or to try something new, or to, let me tell you, I the joke about you is I'll get a phone call from a mutual friend. He's probably 2 feet 2 inches, and I hope he's watching because he's gonna get me for that. But he would call me and say, "You talk to Q?" And I was like, "No." "You've been on social media?" "No." "And Q has done X, Y, Z." And it's like, what? And then he'll call and say, time will pass. And then he'll say, "You talk to Q?" And I said, "No." "You seen him on social media?" "No." And then he'll say, "Q has." And I'll say, "What?" So when I tell you, if I don't get that call and we don't go through those sequence of steps,
Absolutely.
I know you're too quiet. So I go to your page and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what has he
Yeah.
been up to? What has he been up to? Yes, I'm just so proud of you. So proud. So
Thank you.
let me
Thank you.
ask you this. So what was your major in college?
Undergraduate management information systems. So that's why, as you know, I'm a techie, and
Hmm.
that's why I'm a techie.
Right.
My MBA is in business management.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So why did you choose the tech field at first, and then how has choosing that business management degree prepared you for when you did start to go into business?
Well, ultimately, I've always knew that, I had a great business acumen.
Mhm.
I got a dad who was a businessman, and I learned a lot from him. So I've always known that that's what I would be. Honestly, the tech field, the tech decision was kind of pushed by society. It was one of those things at the time when I was in college. I was doing research on salaries, and careers. And I'm like, okay, hey, the tech field is where it is where it's paying the most money. And me being a techie prior to, college and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, why not? So it was more of a a push from that perspective more than anything. It wasn't, I can't say there's something that I definitely know that I knew that I would graduate from college and go into the tech field.
Mm-hmm.
When I graduated, I worked for a subsidiary of Texas Instruments, and it was an externship position that turned into a full-time position. Actually,
Okay.
I moved to El Paso, Texas, right out of college. Absolutely hated it. I hated El Paso. I loved the job. Right. El Paso was different. It was a culture difference. It wasn't about disliking any race or ethnicity or anything like that. It was just different for me. I'm 21 years old, fresh out of college. I'm a mama's boy. I'm leaving my mama, leaving my family, and I'm going across country. So of course that compounded with the job. I'm like, okay, I don't like being here. So therefore, I end up hating the job.
Okay.
Stayed there about 2 years, left, and I came back to Alabama, and I had the opportunity to work for the company full time. They actually hired me to come full time, but I decided I didn't want to. So while I was home on a medical leave, I had a minor medical procedure.
Mhm.
I applied for some jobs at home, and funny thing about it is I met somebody who that I knew very well who was in the banking industry.
Okay.
Interview while I was at home sick, and 2 weeks later, I flew back to El Paso, and I got the phone call that I got the job.
Oh
You
wow.
talk about somebody packed those bags so fast. I didn't even think twice about it. I'm telling you, I started packing I hadn't even accepted the position. I hadn't signed my offer letter, but I started packing. So ended up, back in Alabama, working for a major bank, and that's when I converted from the tech side to the
Okay.
business
Okay.
side. Learned a lot, of course. I mean, I'm super grateful for my banking background and banking
Mhm.
knowledge because that was the catalyst for where I am now, honestly.
Okay. And how did your business management degree, once you got into your business, how did you, I know when you look back, how did that degree choice help you when starting your business or help you with the foundation of your business?
A lot of the things that I learned, that's one thing I can say about a business management degree. There are a lot of classes that truly teach you how to manage a business. We have so many majors out there where, like for example, I'm a business management major, but I still had to take chemistry.
Right.
You know nothing about chemistry today, and it was just something that I had to take, right? So that I will say prepared me for the classes that I had, things that I learned, while attending A&M. We often hear a lot that things happen at HBCUs where, they talk about long lines and they talk about certain things like that, but those things taught me character. Those things taught me
How
patience
to
on top
patience.
of right on top of my class, and it also taught me that that I'm not privileged. Like nothing is gonna fall in my lap. I got to go out and get it. So
Hmm.
I can say my classes compounded with the actual environment, the society, and everything at school, prepared me for the business world.
Right. So let's talk about let's go back. The reason I asked you that is because it's important. I know that when we're coming out of high school, you're kind of figuring out what you want to do. Now in 2023, a lot of these children that are coming out of high school going into college, a lot of them have their mindset on something specific and they go into that degree,
Hmm.
right? And I
Right.
know when I was going through school, I did not know. I started off at computer science because I liked that in high school. Then I did a minor in accounting. Then I went to marketing. And then, some time lapsed. And then I finally got my degree in 2013. But when I was going back, I went through University of Phoenix, and the lady that was enrolling me in school, I forgot her position, but she said, tell me a little bit about yourself, and I did. And
Hmm.
she said, listen, if you're going to spend this time going back to school, and you're going to spend this money, you might as well do a degree that you can use the information real time, and it will benefit you because you are a business owner. So I just asked that because it is so important for you to these kids these days to map out what they think they want to do and
Hmm.
then try to go into degrees that will prepare them for what they had mapped out, right? Instead
Right.
of just, doing what your mama wants you to do.
Hmm.
Because I know situations about that. That if you didn't go to the school the mama wanted you to go to, if you didn't do the degree the mama wanted you to do the degree, and then I'm
Right.
not paying, and you
Right.
pigeonhole that child,
Right.
right? I know
Hmm.
somebody now that's going to do that right now, but it's important. One thing, another thing is that a business degree is very general,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So I tell someone that if you don't know where you want to go, to me that's the best degree to land in.
Yeah. I,
Because
I totally agree.
yeah, yeah, because even if you work for corporate America, it could work. If you're a business owner, it could work.
Yep.
If you work for Cricket Mobile, it could work.
Absolutely.
So I've been pushing the business degree because I think, overall it's a good general degree for
Hmm.
people to go in, and then you can do a minor or MBA in something specific. That's the way I was told.
No,
But
I mean I agree wholeheartedly with that. I mean, because like a general business degree, the world basically is a business.
right,
And
right,
to succeed in this world, you got to know how to run your life.
And
So
you need
you're
to
like,
know how to handle business.
absolutely know how to handle business. So
Yep.
I don't think you can go wrong with a business degree, especially if you're undecided.
Right, right. All right. So let's discuss your journey to entrepreneurship. So you said you were working at the bank.
Hmm.
So take us on the journey from you being at the bank to you taking the leap.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, started at the bank many years, 2004, as a matter of fact. Um, and I knew at that particular time, way back then, that this wasn't for me. You
Okay.
know, everybody encouraged me. As you know, everybody as a child said, of course, you're sharp, you're going to be a businessman.
Hmm.
These are the things you want to do. So I had this whole dream of working in the downtown skyscraper, with a corner office or with a
Okay.
good view. Like those were like goals,
Hmm.
those were more goals than actually succeeding with the company,
Okay.
because it just felt that's what society wanted, and that's
Hmm.
just what I really cared about. And of course, I matriculated through the bank. I succeeded, did well, worked in several positions at the bank, because I went through what is called a management training program. So it kind of gives you the opportunity to work in different sectors of the bank, and grow and learn, those kind of things. They invest a lot of money in the people that are accepted into that program.
Okay.
Very high power program at the bank. They probably have 400 or 500 applicants a year, and they only accept about 30.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately enough, I made one of the cuts that year, and they invest, they pay for your housing, because that's how I ended up actually in Birmingham. So I'll take you back,
Okay.
because when I started with the bank, I was in Huntsville.
Okay. Okay.
But you had to move to Birmingham to go through the management training program. It's a 3-month program where they move you, pay for your housing, everything, pay you a nice salary and everything for 3 whole months.
Hmm.
So that is how I ended up in Birmingham, and I never went back to Huntsville. I was supposed to go back to Huntsville after the fact, but I didn't.
Okay.
So I ended up staying in Birmingham. And like I said, that was 2006, 2005 when I went through that program. But once again, Tina, I knew then this is not for me.
Right.
Never said it to a soul. I tried, I pushed, I still succeeded. I still, like I said, worked in several positions, made a name for myself in the company. And year after year after year after year, I'm like, this is not for me. I prayed, way back then. That's why I just bought some pictures for my house that
Hmm.
says I'm living the life that I prayed for back then,
Wow. That's
because that's what
powerful.
I did. I mean, I prayed for this, back then, but it was like one of those things, you work, you go to work every day. Like, I mean, there is no not working and trying to figure things out. Guess what? You work, So, years went by. I mean, I worked several jobs, so like several positions, and I just could never find it, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
I'm tired. And I would go to another position, thinking, okay, this is it. The first week or two, it's all hunky dory. 3 to 6 months in, I'm like, you know. So Sundays would come around, and I would be literally physically depressed when the sun is going down on Sunday, because it's time to go to work on Monday.
Mm.
Um, I used to journal a lot, so I found a journal entry from 2013 where I wrote about becoming a realtor. That I would be a successful realtor someday. And I journaled that, and I put that in my Bible next to Jeremiah 29:11.
You better come
And
on.
so that is my favorite scripture to this very day, because I knew he had plans for me. I knew he
Yeah.
had plans for me. I'm like, there is no way you will tell me this is the life that I'm supposed to live. You
Right.
know, Getting up every day, just being unfulfilled. I'm like, I'm just going through the motions, and I'm
Right.
ready for Friday, rushing life
Mhm.
away, not knowing what will happen. And I'm like,
Right.
I gotta figure this out. Great friend of mine, I share her name all the time. Her name is Millicent Payne, dear friend of mine, love her to death. And she would always tell me, her exact words would say, "Friend, this is not for you.
Mhm.
You can go out there and get it. You got the personality, you're a people person, you got the knowledge." But I was basically strong armed by a nice salary, you
Okay.
know, salary and benefits. I'm like, okay, well,
Mhm.
every 2 weeks, hey, I'm getting a nice check. So let me just tough it out, So I'm hoping maybe, okay, I'll like the job better next week.
Right.
Next week comes, that doesn't happen.
No.
I'll like it better the next week. That week comes, it doesn't
No.
happen. Funny story is, it was April Fools, and I still didn't think about it. Millicent, we worked on the same team,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at lunch, and she called me, and she prefaced everything with friend. That's what she called
Okay.
it.
Okay.
She said, "Friend, guess what? They severanced us. They're laying us off." Tina, I got excited, because I felt like, okay, that's my way out. That's what I said.
Right. Right.
And it shocked her because I was like, okay, good. So I had already planned my next 6 months in that
Mm.
30-second phone call of her telling me that I've been laid off, because I knew that I would get a sizable severance,
Right.
So I'm like, okay, hey, I can take a step back, figure this thing out, take a couple of months off or whatever. And she said, I'm just playing. And that crushed me that she was playing, because I'm like, don't play with me like that. I just play in the next 6 months of my life
In
to get
30 seconds.
in 30 seconds. But you know what? In that moment, the Lord said to me, I'm not going to make it that easy. That's too
That was
easy.
an aha moment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not going to make it that easy for you. And I knew that I got to figure this out. I got to do this. And I wish I had
Yeah.
this picture to show you, but I think I got it packed up somewhere. It's in my other office. But there was a picture that a friend gave me, and it was the picture of a staircase, and there
Mhm.
was a missing step. And the Lord's hand was in that missing step when that person stepped into that. As they were going down, it's basically
Right.
like the Lord will catch you. That
Okay.
was my epiphany right there. Um, I just up and decided cold turkey. I didn't have my real estate license yet.
Mm.
I was set up. I'm a saver. I'm very very frugal, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a saver, and I had some rental properties, and I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell one of my rental properties. I'm
Okay.
going to open up a separate account, and I'm going to put all the proceeds from that rental property in a separate account, and that's
Okay.
what I did. I said, okay. So I had already calculated. I'm a numbers person. I'm a
Mhm.
spreadsheet person. So I had it laid out. I said, okay, if I don't make another dime in the next 9 months, guess what? I still got enough to pay mortgage, car note, insurance, whatever. Um, put that money in that account. Still to this day, I've never touched that money.
Are you serious?
That money is still sitting there. Um,
Wow.
left left my job. I said I got to figure this out. I mean, Tina, I quit. Like I put in a resignation and didn't have nothing. I mean, I had
Right,
means,
right, 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 right,
but I
right.
didn't have a job. I
Yeah.
didn't have a real estate license. I really didn't know exactly where I was going at that next moment.
Right.
I quit doing Magic City Classic Week. Right.
So
So
you were going to quit and celebrate.
my mind was occupied. I'm like, you know what? It was that Tuesday of Magic City Classic Week. I kicked it the rest of the week. That Monday morning rolled around. I said, you know what? I don't have a job.
But
You
how
know,
did you feel?
yeah. And I was scared. I was nervous. I was excited. I think I felt every emotion at that moment. Right. Once again, same friend, Millicent. There was
Mm-hmm.
a 2-week real estate class that popped up. Millicent said, friend, like as she so affectionately says, there was a 2-week class that you can get in, get your license, boom, boom, boom. So mind you, nobody knew I had even left my job, but my mom and one of my brothers. My whole family didn't even know. Like it
Okay.
was actually, I kept it that quiet, and the reason I kept it quiet is because I didn't need the naysayers, because
Right.
I know me and I was gonna figure it out.
Right.
I
Right.
need to I need to figure it out on my time and my terms. So
Right.
I don't need, oh, you left that good job, and I didn't need none of that. And thankfully for the people who I told, I didn't get that.
Right.
I got people
Mm-hmm.
who pushed me, who encouraged me. They said, we know you can do it. Got in a real estate class. Thankfully, aced the class, passed my test. I had my license in 3 weeks.
Right. Okay.
Um, After 3 weeks, I had my first client the fourth week.
Mm.
The fifth week, I had two more clients. The sixth week, I had another client, and it just kept growing and growing. I'm like, Lord, I like what, And it was just surprising me. But every closing, everything I had, guess what? I was still tithing, right?
Right.
I was still tithing, regardless of what I tithed it when I sold that rental property and I
Right.
collected those funds. I tithed it off those
Mm-hmm.
funds. So that was really the only thing that I took from those funds. And it just continued to grow and grow. And then my faith it continued to increase. And I was like, wow, like, Lord, this is like, I know you were real, but you are real,
So the words on the page
Mm-hmm.
became alive.
It did. It did. And it made so much sense to me because, I'm that person to where I'm, financial stability, financial freedom, financial literacy, all that stuff is so important to me. I'm a stickler for credit. I'm a stickler for savings. And I'm just like, I left a job without a job.
So let's go back. Let's talk about you. You dropped a couple of nuggets, so I want
Okay.
to touch on this. So let's talk about journaling.
Okay.
I first heard about it when Oprah interviewed Tyler Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyler Perry was on the show talking about his relationship with his dad. And Oprah suggested for him to journal, to get those thoughts out of his head and onto the paper,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is therapeutic. So let's talk about why you feel it's important to journal.
For me, because I believe when I see it, I will live it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing for me. And I don't even type it. And
Right.
even now, like notes and certain things like that, I don't type them. I like to write them.
Right.
Really because like it sets in better to me when I write it. And I
Right.
believe if I write it and if I read it, that if I believe it, that it will happen.
Amen. And I
So,
journal too. So
mhm.
and I think it's, when you have it bottled up inside, I think it's a form of release,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, right.
That out of here is onto the paper.
Mhm.
I've released it, close it, put the pen on top, and I'm moving forward. It's
Right.
also a good way for you to go back and look back at your life. You
Right.
know that you have been through some things, but when you go back and you pick up a journal from 4 years ago, just pick up a random journal and you read it, you start to cry because
Yeah.
you look and see where your life has transitioned to, and all the thing you were doing life, right?
Mhm.
But you
Right.
see that you have made the steps with God's grace to get from here to here. And
Mhm.
that saying is, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be.
Mhm.
You can see that when you journal. So
Right.
I just
That's true.
wanted, you're a black male, and I wanted people to understand it is very therapeutic and it's important
It
to
is.
do that, and people should incorporate that in their daily lives.
Yeah.
Question number 2. Let's talk about Millicent. How important is it to have people in your life like Millicent that can see when you can't see, that can push you and push you in a positive direction and stay on you because they know that greater is in you?
I can't stress enough how important that is. Having someone that believes with you,
Mm-hmm.
two or more gathered in the name. I mean, we know what it says.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the pushing and just and people having faith in you that you don't have in yourself.
Right.
I tell everybody you need somebody that can pray for you when you can't pray. Because
Mm-hmm.
there have been times where I can't pray, but I know who I can call and who will pray.
Right.
So that is super important. Having that positive influence around you, having that person that's going to push you and have the faith for you when you can't. Because that's one thing in real estate. I tell my clients, I got a lot of clients who that we have closed on their houses. They never thought they would ever own a home, but I told them I
Mm-hmm.
got enough faith for you. I got
Right.
enough faith for you to put you in a house. And when you don't believe it, guess what? I'm going to continue. I'm going to push you and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to make you really realize something that you never thought that would be possible. So
Right.
I try to be that person to everybody, whether it be friends, clients, whomever, I try to be that person. But that is ultimately an important piece that everybody needs in your life. You don't need anybody draining you. You need
Mm-hmm.
people pushing you
Mm-hmm.
and, pushing you when you don't have nothing, when you don't have nothing in you. And like, I mean, you were talking before we even started the show tonight. There have been times where I didn't have nothing in me. Like I said, people don't believe that
Mm-hmm.
because everybody see the highlight reels on Facebook. But there have been times where I've been completely empty, and I've had friends, several friends. I mean, Milton is definitely one of the key players, but I've had several friends. I don't want to start
Name
naming,
it. Yeah.
But the reason I have to share her because everybody around me knows how I feel about her, and they
Right.
know who she's been, to me. And like I said, that was the first person who told me that you can walk away from this job and be successful in doing real estate or doing something else that's your passion.
Right.
Even when I didn't believe it, she believed it, and she believed enough for me and prayed for me and helped push me, and here I am.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you too was, and I just had a senior moment. You talked about Millicent. I know what it was. And I think this is key too. You mentioned um, when you were working on the job, when she did the April Fool joke,
Mm-hmm.
right? The money and uh, the benefits outweigh you taking the leap in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you weren't happy. Can you speak? There are so many people, Quentin, that are there and they don't know what their next step is,
Mm-hmm.
but they're so unhappy. And I'm gonna share this with you right quick while we're on the air. I was working at a big healthcare conglomerate. I ain't gonna mention their name. And we were working in this building, and the guy was 56, and he had a manager that was, I don't know what, he was a good employee, but the manager was always riding his back, always riding his back. And this particular day, the manager, they had it out that day, and the manager went home. So the next day, they had counselors, therapists, and all these people in the building because the cleaning staff came through around 5:30, and they saw him at his desk. They said, okay, well, he's just working late. And the lady, after probably around 30 minutes, she came back through and she touched his shoulder and he fell over. So the reason why I want to share this story
Wow.
is because, and I want everybody to listen to what I'm about to say. This man died at the desk of a job that he despised. He didn't make it home to his wife, and he didn't make it home to his son. He was only 56. But he did die on the way home. He died sitting at a desk that he despised. Can you just speak to the viewers about how it can't be about money, 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 money? It has to be about a fulfilled life, and everybody's fulfilled life is different. But the stress, you pay a price to make certain figures, right? And you gotta weigh it. Is it worth it? So let's talk to the viewers about um, you know letting money and these stressful situations guide their decisions.
Oh, absolutely. I would often say I was one of those people that say, money can't buy happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm gonna be totally transparent. We all know that money does make a difference.
Yeah, it does.
You need money to live. So it makes a difference, and sometimes it definitely makes life easier.
Mm-hmm.
However, not at the expense, of your health and your peace on the other side of the table.
Right.
For me, like I said, it was just the salary was the stronghold, the thing that really just had me confined.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I gotta figure it out. This cannot be where I need to be. I want to make money. I want to be financially stable and free, and I gotta make money. But I want to make it doing something that I'm passionate about.
Right.
So something I did find out, that is a true statement. When you're passionate about something, you don't work a day in your life.
Don't work a day.
Um, but it was just one of those things that I had to just really figure out what worked for me. People often ask, "What's like? Give me the blueprint." I'm like, I don't have the blueprint. I just what I tell you, my blueprint is I had crazy faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I just believed that something that most people don't believe. And this is
Right.
definitely not, Tina. I want to say this too. I want to back up and preference. I'm not telling anybody to take a leap. That
Right.
is not what I'm here to do.
Right.
Um, I'm here to give my perspective as you asked, because guess what? It works different for everybody.
That's
So,
right.
people ask me, so what did you do, or how did you do it? This, that, and the other. I'm like, look, I can tell you what worked for me. But
Right.
I just know me, when I'm backed up against the wall, I'm gonna figure a way out. And that's with
Mm-hmm.
anything, because I'm claustrophobic. So even being, and I'm claustrophobic from a literal sense and
Mm-hmm.
a figuratively sense. You know what I'm saying? Just being honest.
Mm-hmm.
So even at a job, I, I was closed in. I felt, it was a claustrophobic situation, and I got to figure a way out. So I'm that way with any aspect in life. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
prime example, I was at homecoming last week, and
Uh-huh.
a situation where they didn't have the gates open, and it was like 1,500 people around me, and I couldn't get out. And one of
Uh-oh.
my frat brothers said, he knows me well. He said, "Man,
Mm-hmm.
I see it." But I was, had my face. I was trying to put on my game face and be calm. He said, "Man, you about to turn up, and I can see it." And you know what I did? I looked around, Tina, and I said, "I gotta get out of here. I gotta
Mm-hmm.
get out of here." And I found a way out, and everybody followed me.
See?
You know,
See?
and I said that to say that's how I am about anything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not, and if I'm in an uncomfortable situation, I am going to find the peace in that situation. Just from a career standpoint, it took me a little longer, because guess what? That career actually pretty much, sustain my life.
Right.
That's how I pay my bills. That's how I eat. That's how I would travel. I mean, I love to just get up and go when I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
love to jump on a cruise ship. I love to get on a plane or whatever. So I knew that, of course, I still had to work to do
Right.
that. But at that point in my life, I'm like, you know what? I gotta try this, because
Mm-hmm.
I said, guess what? If I try this and it don't work, I can always get another job.
That's right.
So
That's
I,
right.
I truly feel like even to this very day that somebody will be thankful to hire me, because guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if I don't like it, I'm gonna work.
Right.
I'm gonna do my job. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I'm not gonna be a slothful employee to anybody. And I'm not even gonna sit here and never say never that I would never go back, to a corporate job. My plan is to never go back. You
Right.
know, I'm not gonna say we don't know what life holds. We don't know what
That's
tomorrow
true.
holds.
Mm-hmm.
Anything could change at any moment. So I'm not too good to sit here and say that I'm not going back. But
Right.
my plan is to not go back, and I'm gonna do everything in my power that I can do to keep me from going back. So
Right.
I do things right now. I got multiple streams. I do a lot of stuff. I got my hands in a
Mhm.
lot of stuff.
Yes,
I
you
got my
do.
I got my hands in stuff that people don't know I have my hands in.
Right. Right.
Because there are a lot of things where I do move in silence.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my friends say that when I tell them stuff, like, how long you been doing this? I said 6 months. You ain't said nothing, but it's all about setting myself up to be
Mm-hmm.
comfortable and to be prepared for anything.
Right.
To my mentees and everything, I practice and I preach saving, but I give realistic savings advice.
Right.
We all know Dave Ramsey, people like that. We know that those people are very intelligent, but
Mm-hmm.
also sometimes, people need some more realistic advice.
Yeah.
Everybody can't put $500 a week back or
Right.
$1,000 a week back. You got to start with something realistic, but you
Right.
also have to create that cushion that you can have in the event of some type of an emergency. So I know I deviated a lot from that question,
No,
but
you're fine.
I'm super passionate about this because of what the Lord has shown me in this process. That it can really happen. And the sayings, if you take one step, he'll take two. In my life, I took one, he took 1,000. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it just put me in a place where I just never thought. I mean, I never thought being a realtor, going on my 5th year, I've
Mm-hmm.
been a top producer every year. I've been rookie of the year. I've been rising star of the year. I've been realtor of the year. And that is not the boast to brag.
Right.
That is actually the boast to brag, but it's the boast to brag on the good Lord for sure,
Right.
because that's who helped make it possible along with my clients. So to be able to take that leap get here and do that and still thrive. Even we're in a very interesting real estate market right now.
Mhm.
When COVID happened, initially I had just basically got into the business, and
Right.
I was in the business a year and a half, and honestly, I never spoke it. That's one thing I don't do. I'm very careful on what I say. I know
Mhm.
life and death is in the power of the tongue, so I'm very careful on what I
Yeah.
say. I'll write it down. I may even text it, but I'm careful about what I put in the atmosphere. I
Yeah.
I was afraid that January when that COVID stuff hit. I'm like, what am I about to do? Left my job, trying to sell real estate in a time where I won't even be able to show houses because I can't go around people, because of
That's
COVID.
right. Yeah.
COVID, unfortunately, for of course, it was the demise of several people, and which I still hate that COVID happened, right? So
Right.
I don't want this to sound crazy, but COVID, unfortunately, was the best thing to happen to real estate. And I know that's weird because it was weird for us because
Yeah.
interest rates went down to like 2%.
Yep. And
So
then the boom
yeah,
happened.
and then the boom happened.
The
Yep.
boom
So during COVID, like I said, that was one of the best times in real estate. I
Right.
hate COVID happened. I still do because
Right.
I'm a COVID survivor with some long hauler symptoms that I've been dealing
Mhm.
with for like almost 4 years now, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I hate it. There's nothing I can say that I like about COVID at all.
Right.
But I just want to say that for real estate, like interest rates really dropped because the economy changed. Because I think the government thought, of course, everything's going to stop. So
Mhm.
interest rates were down to 2%,
Yep.
which is unheard of. So guess what? Everybody started buying and selling because you can sell your house and make tons of money
Right.
during that
Mhm.
time. And also you can easily buy a house because interest rates were so low and credit policies were a little lenient.
Right. Yeah. And I'm a real estate broker here,
Yeah.
and it was I it was unheard of. I
Hmm.
mean, for somebody to have 110 offers
Yeah.
on a house or 52 offers on a house,
Yeah.
and people just bidding so much over the price. But
Yep.
in every dilemma, in everything bad, there's an opportunity.
Hmm.
And the question is, do you see it? Why you mentioned COVID, I'm gonna get on this right quick. So when COVID hit, I try to do all these learning, um, learning time, right,
Hmm.
with my children, right? And so I asked her, I said, COVID is bad, right? She said yes. I said, but there's always an opportunity in chaos. That's what I told her. I said, now let's talk about the opportunities. Who it who are the people who can benefit off the chaos? And she started naming people: the truckers, the toilet tissue people, the people who make water. Now these companies had to go to delivery services. So in every chaotic situation, whether it's in the world or in your life, there are opportunities.
Hmm.
But you have to sit still and find those opportunities because they are there.
Yeah.
They are there.
I
So let me
agree.
ask you this, Quentin. What was one thing through this whole process? What was one thing you learned about yourself that you didn't know in the beginning?
That honestly, that I didn't have the faith that I have.
Mm,
That was ultimately, I know that maybe sound like a broken record. I've said it a couple of times, but I shocked myself when I resigned and didn't have anything lined up. Like I
yeah.
just, I've always been the person. I've always been. I'm structured. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very organized. As you know me personally from that side. I'm very
You are.
detailed. I'm very detailed. I plan my day. Like, I literally the night before, I look at my calendar, I write out what I gotta do the next day. Even though it's on my calendar, guess what? I still write it down.
Right.
Because when I write it down, I remember it better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I plan everything, but that was something that I did not plan. Like I typed that resignation letter and it had been sitting in my on my computer for 6 months. I would just go change the date. I was like, okay, today is the day. I'm going to
Today
resign.
is the day.
You know what? I get there and I start thinking, and stuff set in. So what if? But what if? And guess what? I don't do it that day. And it just went on. I kicked the ball further and further down the road. And that week, like I said, Magic City Classic, everybody know me that homecoming classic, anything around Alabama A&M University is
Yeah.
is my life. I love it.
Right.
So that Tuesday morning, I went in there and I was like, I kicked it hard, Tina, that week. I didn't have a job. So I was at everything, right? I was tailgating. I was at receptions and lunches during the day when I normally would be at work. Um, just living it up. But I mean, classic was over. Everybody was going home. And that Monday morning, I woke up and sit on the side of my bed. And I was like, I just cannot believe what just happened.
What did I just do?
I said, what did I do? You know who I called? Millicent. And I said, what did I just do? She said, nope. She said, we're not
That's
doing that.
right.
She said, we're
That's
not doing
right.
that.
Such
She
a
said,
good
no.
friend.
Yeah, she said, no.
Mhm.
She said, no, no, we're not doing that. Shake it off. Take your time, figure it out. Don't sit there and get consumed, because what she told me what's gonna happen, you're gonna get consumed as to why, and it's gonna put you in a funk and you're not gonna do anything.
Right. Mhm.
Because you're gonna sit there and try to figure it out in your mind instead of, figuring it out with your feet,
Right.
moving, and that was so true. And like I said, when that class popped up, I got in it, and the rest is history.
Have you read the book Crazy Faith by Michael Todd?
I have not. Let me write
You,
that down. I need
you gotta get it.
to. What is it? Crazy Faith by?
It's called Crazy Faith by Pastor Michael Todd.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
put it in my
I have
cart.
to share with you. I only read 32 pages of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, okay, if his word in this book is true,
Right.
and you the God that I know that you are, then okay, I'm gonna put an 8-head embroidery machine into the atmosphere. Now let's see. Let's see if the word is true.
And look at what
It
happened.
arrived the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It was 2 weeks after I said it.
Wow. And
Two
look
weeks.
now. And look at you now.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
So
Wow.
we were raised in church. We go to church, and I told my kids that you're what you're doing is you're soaking it all in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you really don't understand how much word you have absorbed
Mm-hmm.
until a trial comes.
Yep. That's true.
That's when you realize how much is really in you.
Yeah.
And at that time, the God of words on a page becomes a living spirit when you're going through.
Yeah.
And faith is so important, to just get you through and to push you through, because as a kid you go to Sunday school and you hear about all this stuff, and but as you become an adult and you start to live, you're like, okay, you start to lean on those stories
Mm-hmm.
that you heard, and then you realize it's not just a story.
Right.
It really is real.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and I want to say this too. If we go to church and we believe what we believe, and he says in his word that he can give us exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask and or think,
Okay.
exceedingly and abundantly.
Right.
He does not want us to have a life of struggle. That's
Right.
not of him, right? But I
Right.
told my kids this, Quentin. Your life is nothing but a culmination of the choices that you make.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now, you heard me when I said
Yep.
it's the culmination of the choices that you
Mm-hmm.
make,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you don't like the life or whatever you're in, choose again.
Yeah.
Life is just that simple. It's nothing but choices.
Yeah.
Nothing
Absolutely.
but choices. And I'm so glad that you chose to take the leap and let him catch you.
Absolutely. I'm,
Because I know now on this side, the freedom
mm-hmm.
to me is I'll work an extra hour
Mm-hmm.
to keep my freedom of not having to ask, when can I get off?
Right.
And not having to ask this and ask that and determine this, right?
Right.
And I know
Absolutely.
you felt good. Like you said, you was able to go to lunches during the day. You're like, I never do
Hey,
this.
like they say, I was outside that week, like really. I'm at day parties and I'm just stopping by random events. I was living my best life. And I laugh about it now. So I was living my best life and I didn't have a job.
Hey, hey, and like you said, but the good thing about it is, let's talk about a little bit about knowing your worth. Because you made a statement and you said, I'm very clear that if this does not work out, I can always go back and get a job and somebody would be glad to hire me. You can only say that, Quentin, when you know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that because so many people work in these 9 to 5 jobs, they do not know their worth. And when their employer knows that,
Yeah.
I have seen it. They will manipulate them and they will use them up because they know they don't know their worth. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about that because I think that's important.
Okay. Well, I will honestly say too, and I'm thankful to say that I've never had a manager that didn't know my worth. Mm-hmm. So I'm super thankful for that because that in terms also helped me to understand and know my worth. Right. There were times when if I did resign, because like I said, I did work several jobs within jobs, and the response that I would get, like, "Are you sure you're going to go over here? We love to keep you over here," kind of thing. I'm like, okay, well, hey, I'm contributing some serious stuff to this team. Right. But I can honestly say in all confidence that I know what I bring to any situation. I mean, whether it be friendship, relationship, a job, the fraternity, whatever, I know that I'm a worker. Right. I'm a worker, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Sometimes it's probably not the most normal traditional way to figure out something, but I will still figure it out. Like, for example, I'm a Excel, I won't say an expert, but I'm close.
Good.
And some things that I can do in Excel, like even now, it just blows people's mind.
The
had a friend,
formulas and everything.
Yeah, I had a friend who works a corporate job, and they know that I'm pretty good in Excel. And she said, I gotta build this spreadsheet for my team, and I need something to do X, Y, and Z. I said, well, let's meet. This was a couple of weeks ago. I said, let's meet and let's sit down and we'll build it. And she was like, really? I said, yeah, we'll build it. We met at 7:00, and about 9:00 she had a whole database. And she started practicing and playing in it. And she was like, and I said, yeah, when you do this changes, this changes, this changes. And she took it back to work. And of course, I don't want the praise, right. You done it, right? I didn't do it.
Right.
And said now everybody across the team is using that same spreadsheet. That is like the new department spreadsheet that everybody use for all of their stuff. All the tabs, talk and all that stuff. So I said all that to say I know what I can bring. I know, and this is not, not an arrogant statement.
Right.
But I just know once I get in, and like I said, I don't care what it is. I'm gonna figure it out, Tina. Like I'm gonna figure out a way to make it work, to make it happen. And that's the way I've always been in everything. I mean, I'll even share a story when I was in high school and I worked for a fast food restaurant. I definitely would not say the name.
Okay.
People that know me know where I work. But there were times when I knew I would be an entrepreneur then, because when we would close at night, the restaurant would throw the food away. And they would use a portion of it for certain things.
Right.
But they would throw the rest of the sandwiches and stuff away. I'm like, can I take those sandwiches? I went to school and sold those sandwiches for $1.
See?
Right? So I knew then, hey, I knew it was a problem when the school called my parents and said he cannot bring any more sandwiches to sell at school anymore. So you know what? I said, I said, I'm gonna be a force in this
Yeah.
business world because I done got shut down in high school. So I just say all that to say, like knowing my worth, like in all seriousness, I just know, what I bring to the table. And like I said, I say all the time, whether it be friend, if I'm your friend and if I rock with you, you got somebody on your side.
Right.
You got a rock because if I ride with you, I'm going all in with you. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
that's how I've always been. But guess what? When you give me, but the thing about it is, you give me the reason for me
Right.
not to ride with you, because I'm
Right.
going to ride with you until you give me a reason not to.
Right.
Right.
Right. We are so
So
similar.
yeah. Oh yeah. We've
That's why
always we've always known that though. We've
we
always known
we've been down since the
a,
beginning, and this is
a, a
why
long
we are
time.
so similar.
A
Let me
long
ask you
time.
this right quick. What has been your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge is that I'm such the person to like a preparer. I'm very structured and detailed, and I still have that what if.
Okay.
What if things change tomorrow? What if things don't always continue to work
Mm-hmm.
the way they've been working and things like that? Then I have to be reminded. I seriously have to take myself to the scripture. I have to call Millicent. I have to, call other friends as well who know this aspect of me and it's funny because Gabrielle Union said it on an interview she had um, a couple of months ago, and people chastised her, but because she was saying,
I missed it.
although that she does well, they do well, but what if she's broke tomorrow? You
Yeah.
know, and everybody just like they attacked her, like, what you talking about? You're not gonna be broke. You married Dwayne Wade. Y'all are rich, this, that, and the other. Life can change now.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. That'll shake
Anything.
all that up.
Well, look at COVID.
Yeah,
COVID is an example that
yeah,
we did
yeah,
not see that coming at all.
yeah.
And it turned everybody's life upside down. So it
Absolutely.
can happen in a moment. You're right.
So that is ultimately and that's still a challenge, because I'm always trying to figure out the next move. Like I'm
Right.
never satisfied where I am. If I feel like I've plateaued, I'm like, okay, I gotta figure something else out. Like this is
Right.
like, I'm not growing. That's how I feel.
Right.
When in actuality, I do be growing, but I feel like, like I'm stagnant, when I get to a certain point. And I'm like, okay, what's next? And I gotta feel like, and I feel like I don't have a lot of funds unless I got a certain amount in the bank. That's just how my mind works,
Right.
you know.
That's how you're built. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta keep this in this particular investment account or whatever to really feel comfortable and to
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm at a place where if the world shakes up tomorrow, guess what?
It's gonna
I'm,
be
I'm gonna
okay.
be okay.
Right.
So those are some challenges that I face, and honestly, like I don't really think there is anything that could change it. I will say the challenge of feeling like that I'm always stagnant has been basically great for me because it pushes me
You push
and that encourages me to keep going. I'm like, I got to figure out something. I got to do something else, or I got to create a different stream because if this
me.
stream doesn't succeed, I'm going to put this stream in that place, and I'm going to figure this out.
Right.
So actually, it's not a bad thing for me because it pushes me and encourages me to keep going and to try to figure out new things.
If there's a viewer watching or listening, because it's going to be broadcast on Friday, it's going to go international. This show is going to go. This interview is going to go international.
Okay.
If there's a viewer watching or listening, and they are not um, happy where they are, and they're thinking about taking the leap, can you just give them some tips of some things that they may need to consider before taking the leap?
Highly consider your passion.
Okay.
Taking a leap is deeper than just taking a leap just because.
Right.
You gotta take a leap and have something else to fall on.
Mhm.
So ultimately, work, figure out that passion. But in the meantime, use your job to finance that passion.
Amen.
Because it all depends on what that passion is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's passion doesn't pay huge dividends real fast.
Right.
You know, Thankfully, real estate is one of those that do.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really think about and factor in all those means. Like, okay, like what if my passion is it gonna what kind of income is it gonna bring in? Is it gonna bring in an income that will afford me the opportunity to leave these benefits? If
Okay.
not, guess what? Figure it out. Continue to push as much as you can, because I did. I pushed hard. Continue to push as hard as you can to finance and use your job to finance that passion,
That's
and
right.
use it as a catalyst for other means. So
Right.
dig deeper into that passion to see, okay, how can I grow this passion? If it's not making the income, or if the objective, or the highlight, point that we make it in that particular passion, if it doesn't reach you to a certain area, what can I do to expand it? Or
Right.
what can I do different? Or what can I do in conjunction with it to, hey, I might be able to cut it in half and create a two streams of income with that
Right.
one passion level that I have.
Okay. So that's good. And I think that's key, because there's ways that you can use your job and the trainings and the income to actually start your passion or
Mm-hmm.
start your business and educate yourself through the startup, right?
Right.
Still have your bills paid. But the main thing is to plan it out. You got
Right.
to have a plan,
You
right?
do.
You can't just leave. You got to have a plan.
Right.
So while you're working that full-time job, let's get a plan together, right? And let's see how much more you need to generate in product, or
Mm-hmm.
how much harder you need to work, and let the job uh, fund the
Mm-hmm.
business, which is what you were saying. Um,
And
before we end the show, you have a company, Better Living
mm-hmm.
LLC. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk just a little bit. Tell the viewers what that is.
Okay. Better Living LLC is an LLC I created back in 2011, 2012. I got on this whole health kick, right?
Okay.
I was working out, I was doing well. I lost like 70 pounds
Oh wow.
during that time. And I would always hashtag on Facebook, hashtag Better Living. I
Mm,
just would just hashtag it. I'm like, okay, trying to live a better life. I took that and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to get this trademarked, and I'm also going to create an LLC and call it Better Living LLC.
okay.
And I said, okay, in Better Living, that basically encompasses anything that will help you have a better life,
Okay.
whether it's finances, whether it's health, whether it's education, things like that. So I took that Better Living LLC, that company, and just took it and molded it into something that could help people have a better life from many aspects. So from Better Living now it's Better Living Realty,
Okay.
my t-shirt business, Better Apparel.
Okay.
I owned a hair salon for several years. I know nothing about hair now.
Right.
My cousin ran the salon, and it was Better Hair.
Okay.
So everything was using the word better, because I want myself and everybody else to live a better life, regardless of what it is. And just recently, I launched my consulting business, Better Living Consulting.
Right.
And what I've been doing in this business is helping people get their wheels set up, get their making sure their deeds and things are clear on their house. Because one thing that happens in our culture is that when we leave, we lose Big Mama, Big Daddy's house or whatever, because there is
Right.
no will in place. And you have some investor that comes through and drop some money, that doesn't equal up until what Big Mama and Big Daddy put into the house. So it's been, a great business to help people get those things figured out. I haven't even gotten a chance to get my website active, my office hours active, because when I made the post on Facebook, like, I got flooded with clients. So and I'm not
I'm
complaining
not
at
shocked.
all. But so it is a thriving, active business right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I still want to get the things, I want to get my
Right.
website done. But I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I got to hire a team. So anything that I touch from a business standpoint, it will always have the word better.
Okay.
I'm a licensed travel agent, Better Living Travel.
Yeah.
So I do it all because I want everything, and I operate in excellence,
Yeah.
and I want everyone that's associated with me to say, okay, you help me to a better life just by knowing you.
Right. So that's your brand.
Yeah.
That Better
Yeah.
Living is your brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're streaming your information at the bottom of the screen. If anybody wants to contact you, what's the best way to contact you?
The best way is by phone. Area code 256.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add it, and then that
Okay.
way, when they look at the show, okay, hold on,
Okay.
I'm gonna add it.
Sure thing.
Is it office or sale?
Sale
Okay, give it to me.
256
Mm-hmm.
337
Mm-hmm.
1987.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna stream it so that when they're, is that right? 256 337 19.
That's it. 87. That's it.
You know, in today's age, we don't know anybody's phone number. We just call Quentin.
Absolutely. You know what? There are a few numbers I know by heart.
Few.
Yeah, my mom and dad. I know those numbers by heart. My brother. Yeah, but hey, it's not many. But I'm a numbers person, so normally I was always the one that could remember people's phone number. But those days are over.
Quentin, thank you so much. You're going to hold on while we end the show, but thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been long time coming. You have been a supporter of me since day one, since we met each other. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for being a true friend and to be a supporter of the show. And I really can't wait for us to talk later about some things. And we're very, very similar.
Yeah.
And how we roll, how we do business, how we carry ourselves. So
Right.
I think that's why we've been friends for so long. And then because we keep the 2 foot 2 inch person, I will keep saying that he gonna get me.
Hey,
We keep that one, but
I'm
we
sure-
keep that one around.
I'm sure he's watching because he's probably doing something for me.
Look, for both of us.
Right.
So everybody, I pray that you have really enjoyed this show and really got a lot of information. I pray that it was informative and that you got a lot of information. And if nothing else, you are leaving this broadcast inspired, right? And inspired on all different levels, because we talked about a lot of different things. We're doing bi-weekly shows. So we will see you all in 2 weeks, and we're setting up that show. The last Wednesday in the month, we're going to have my bookkeeper will be back, Reggie Bell, and he's going to talk about fourth quarter financial tips, because we're at the end of the year, and there's some tips that he wants to share. So make sure you tune in 2 weeks, and then at the end of the month. So I just want to tell everybody, thank you. I know we went a little over, but thank you so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate it. And Quentin, you hold on, and I'll make it the show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Oh, where's my outro?